In King David's time, the Ark of the Covenant, which was a great golden chest that held the 10 Commandments and represented God's presence among the Israelites, had been held captive by the Philistines. King David gathered all his soldiers and all the people of Israel to rescue the Ark of the Covenant from enemy hands. As they returned to Jerusalem, the great crowd of people danced with joy and sang songs of praise to God. Years after bringing the Ark of the Covenant back to Jerusalem, God gave King David peace from all his enemies. In awe of all the Lord had done for him, King David decided to build the Lord a temple. But because King David had been a man of war, God came to the prophet Nathan and told him that King David would not be the one to build this amazing temple. Instead, God said that King David's son Solomon would build him a temple, and that God would set up an eternal dynasty through the lineage of King David. As King David came to the end of his life, he made preparations for Solomon to build the temple. King David had great ships bring logs of cedar wood from foreign lands, and he had tons of stone carved from distant mountains brought to Jerusalem. He ordered iron and more bronze than could be weighed to make nails and other fittings for the great temple. King David gathered the leaders of Israel together and told them to support Solomon so he would be successful in this great task. For more than 7 years, Solomon embarked upon the great work of building the temple. When it was finished, it stood 4 stories tall and 90 feet long. The interior of the building was completely covered in cedar wood, decorated with beautiful carvings of fruit and open flowers. The walls of the inner sanctuary, the room where the Ark of the Covenant was housed, were covered in pure gold. Not a single surface of the temple was without decoration. It was a magnificent sight. When the temple was finished, Solomon completed his father's vision and had the Ark of the Covenant brought into the temple. As Solomon and the elders of Israel watched, a procession of priests carried the Ark into the temple. Once it had been placed upon the altar in the inner sanctuary, a great cloud appeared as the glory of the Lord filled the temple. The cloud was so thick, the priests could not perform their work. The entire assembly of Israel had gathered for the occasion. After seeing the glory of the Lord fill the temple, Solomon prayed to God, praising his glory and faithfulness. Solomon prayed that God's people would live according to God's word and purposes. Once Solomon had finished praying and blessing all those in attendance, the people celebrated the incredible feat that had been accomplished. The temple had been built, and the glory of the Lord filled the temple. Once the temple construction was completed, the Lord appeared to Solomon. The Lord said, "I have made this temple you built holy by putting my name on it forever." God told Solomon that if he followed him faithfully, as his father David had, his royal line would have no end. God challenged Solomon, as he instructs us all, to follow him faithfully.